Welcome to Zen Live. I wasn't going to say anything this morning. I didn't, and that's where I am now. If unless I really have this impulse to come here and do a little talk, I'm not going to do it. So anyway, I started writing a follow-up comment on yesterday's talk, which has gotten a lot of views. Seems to have a lot of more legs than a centipede, and basically it was a talk on vegetarianism, being vegan or vegetarian, which is basically a liberal or purist in the not eating meat world, And so I wrote a little more self-reflection on how I fit into this. And then I decided, wow, I need to talk about this some more because I have a good viewpoint on this, and not the sense that it's a right viewpoint, but it certainly is a viewpoint of the whole roller coaster since I'm 80 years old, and I first stopped eating meat and I didn't really think of becoming a vegetarian. Back in 1970 was don't eat meat. That was, it wasn't like be a vegetarian and be a vegan. See, these have evolved. Basically, it was just don't eat meat. So my looking at this amusement park of life from the viewpoint of 80, I can see my own amusement park roller coaster because I took the vow to not eat meat, then I dropped the vow and ate meat, and then I took the vow and didn't eat meat, and then I dropped it and ate meat. So I have a wide-angle lens, and I understand both sides. So I can't argue. I don't argue with anybody because we're all right. So what I wrote this morning and what I worked out, and again, this is just my view, it seems to me there are 4 reasons to not eat meat. One would be a religious injunction. Many religions have a prohibition against eating meat. Fine. Number 2, it would be a sudden awakening of the ahimsa, which is the a non-violent principle of life, which would say, I don't want to participate in the killing of sentient life. I'll eat plants, but I won't eat rabbits and pigs and things like that, you see. So I won't participate. Number 3, it might be a health reason, because there's so many studies out now, of the additives to the meat food chain that are detrimental to the health. So it could be a health reason. And then there's the 4th reason, which I think I fed into, was that I stopped eating meat. When I got into Guru Yoga, which I was in the Guru Yoga I was in the 70s and halfway through the 80s. Okay, so that's 15 years. With several gurus. But Guru Yoga basically is I give the guru or the teacher the authority to direct my life because I want to get to enlightenment or unity consciousness or whatever you call it, a true self. I want to get there and I don't know how to do it, so you tell me what to do. So it's kind of like that surrender to the authority of the guru in whatever form that guru takes. It doesn't mean it's some Indian sadhu or something. It can be anything. So the guru is very general, fill in the blank type of thing. But anyway, so that was what happened with me. My guru said, oh, you want to practice yoga? Okay, don't eat meat, don't drink, don't smoke. Okay, do that for a year. Come back and see me. See if you can do that for a year. Oh, it just fell off. Okay, well, I've told this story before, but the point was I stopped eating meat and so I could get to something, till I could be accepted into this teacher's house, you see. So it's kind of like leave your shoes and your meat at the door if you want to come in here. You can't come to meditation if you've had any meat. It's contamination. The lower vibrations, you see. So it was all, and so then, that kind of like evolved, but the whole point was I wasn't eating meat because I wanted to get somewhere. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be special. So when I gave up, the first time it fell off is when I dropped that whole urge to be enlightened or special, and I ended up driving a meat truck. And the meat came back. And then when the urge to be special and to be back on the spiritual path, to be spiritually special, to be awakened and enlightened came back, the meat fell off. And then when I finally saw the futility in that, the meat came back. So for me, it was basically not eating meat was connected with my desire to be awakened and enlightened, or God conscious, or whatever you want to call it, saved or whole or true self, fill in the blank. Well, but whatever, I wanted to be somewhere. I wanted to get to be somewhere, and not eating meat was one of the means, you see. But now at 80, I no longer have any desire to be enlightened or special or to get anywhere. The older you get, the less time you have. So my mother, when she was 100, said, you know why I'm happy? So happy? And I said, why, Mom? And she said, because I have no future. And then she said, which topped it off, when I was younger, I had a future and I wasn't so happy. And when I look at the pictures of her and my father when they were young, she wasn't. She was just kind of like straight face, kind of like Jared Kushner. So anyway, I hadn't thought of that before. But I say Jared Kushner because you don't see him laughing. He looks like the Al Pacino in The Godfather. But anyway, I digress. So the point is that all these different reasons are all valid and great. And there may be some other reasons, I don't know. See if you can comment on, bring your comment in, and we can look into that, you see. And the other thing that came up this morning was that as I contemplated this and began to pick the cotton ball apart, if you hang out here with me, all of my talks are like cotton ball. You want to pull it apart to make it transparent. So we've been pulling apart this idea of not eating meat to make it transparent, to see what's in there, you see, without getting into an argument about, well, I don't eat meat and you should, or I eat meat and you shouldn't, all that crap, you see. We don't go there. We don't go there. That's violence. You see what I mean? So if you really take the ahimsa, this great non-violent vow to do no harm, you eventually get you start out with the external world. I do no harm in the external world, but then it's kind of like a hot penny on a sheet of ice. It begins to melt. So this ahimsa is like a hot penny, and you put it on, and it begins to melt inside. So what happens inside is that I discovered that much of my life was mentally violent, which means there was internal conflicts. My yoga teacher said I have inconsistencies in the lower nature. And that means that my mind looked like that. My mind and body and my mind looked like that. Or it looked like my favorite drawing. It looked like the snake or dragon eating itself. Now that's violent. And so this is basically, Now what? I love this. I discovered this. I don't know if anyone has ever discovered it before. But this is the symbol, the ancient symbol of the Ouroboros, which is the dragon or snake eating itself, trying to become one by eating. In other words, the consciousness is trying to become whole by eating its unconscious. The consciousness is trying to become whole by eating what its dark side. The consciousness is trying to become whole by chasing. Say, suppose the yin is in time, and the yang here is now. So I want to be whole in time. Consciousness says, what do I do to get there? Well, don't eat this, don't do that, and you'll become whole in time, you see. So what actually is going on is that consciousness is trying to eat itself in order to become free of the conflict in time of trying to be something in time. So as long as I'm trying to be something in time, doesn't matter what you're trying to be, and time could be I want to be something in 5 minutes or whatever. You know, this is an open-ended thing, but wanting to be something better in time is the split, is trying to consume itself, you see. And so what is ahimsa, or nonviolence, is seeing this, is seeing that one is consuming oneself in an attempt to eliminate the conflict in oneself. You see, so here we got heads. This is like heads, and here we got tails, okay? And so it's like a coin. And the head, you try to flip it so there's only one head. So you keep coming up with head. So the head, so you want to be one coin, but it's two. So the head tries to eat or destroy or repress. See, what happens is here is that the head, in order to become one and whole, is going to repress, reject, or project the tail. You see that? So, when I have a desire to be whole and free of violence, free of conflict, at peace, at ease, permanently, if I want to be that, and I don't feel it now, I want to be that in time. And then I say, well, how do I get there? What teacher, what practice, eat meat, don't eat meat, do this teaching, go that religion, do this yoga, do this meditation, you know, whatever the means is a means to an end. But they're separate. The means and the end are separate, you see, because the end is in time. Okay? Heads is now, the end is in time. And so I consume, so in the consumption of myself, the illusion of it is that in order to believe that I have made the coin one, I repress my mind, whatever I don't use, whatever I don't accept in my mind, I'm going to repress, reject, or project. And all of these things create more time. So the real practice of ahimsa, or nonviolence, is seeing. And seeing is not an effort. Seeing is not in time. You can't see tomorrow. There's no means to seeing. You just see. There's no path to seeing. There's no road to seeing. There's no yellow brick road to seeing. There's no way to get to seeing. Because seeing is always now. It's like quitting cigarettes. You don't quit tomorrow, you quit now. Whenever you quit, it's always going to be now. You can never, I'll quit tomorrow. Well, when tomorrow comes, it's now. So, so seeing is now. So nonviolence is now. It can't be in the future. It's always now. So nonviolence is seeing that the violence is an illusion. Ahimsa, nonviolence, is seeing that the conflict in ourself, our inconsistencies, our discontent, our ill at ease, our quiet desperation, is all caused by the Ouroboros, by the separation of now from tomorrow. I want to be whole tomorrow, but I'm always now. So now I'm dissatisfied because I haven't got to tomorrow. That's violence. That's violence. I'm at war with myself through the creation of time that splits me into I'm now in hell now, heaven tomorrow. The promised land is tomorrow. You see how that, so this ahimsa, in whatever form it manifested in, is great. Whether it's way out there in I don't eat meat for I want to be eat meat, then becomes a metaphor for being nonviolent. Okay, so the not eating meat, vegetarian, vegan, these are really metaphors for being nonviolent. And nonviolent is a metaphor for seeing, for the awakening of you as the seer, as the knower. That is prior to what you see. First person. And this is called Buddha nature. So this awakening is basically what ahimsa, or nonviolence, is all about. But the hot penny, once you heat that penny up with the vow of nonviolence, it's going to move through the various layers of the psyche, and it will end up in the field of battle, which is your own mind. See, we start out in the field of battle in the world, so I want to have peace in the world, but then we realize that I can't create peace in the world if I don't create peace in myself. So now I have to discover where the violence is in myself. So I'll end with this. It's kind of like when you get to this final stage of ahimsa, nonviolence, which is the practice of meditation, basically, or the practice of the Dharma, the teaching of nonviolence, which is, by the way, non-duality. So we get into that. Throw that in there, you see. Non-duality is nonviolence. Duality of any form is violence, because it's two things competed against each other, you see. Duality. Okay, so non-duality is nonviolence. The Sanskrit word is ahimsa. And it's kind of like in our town here, when there's a fire or an accident or anything that upsets the order, there's a big town fire alarm or horn that goes off. You can hear it all over town. It goes back to the time before they had radios and alarms, so that the volunteer fire department would hear the town bell or alarm, and they would go get in the truck and go put the fire out. So now, everybody, they all respond to radios, but they still have it. But the idea here is that when you are in this practice internally, you become very sensitive to violence in your own mind, irritation, depression, a state of mind. Oh, I'm contracted, or why did she do that? I'm pissed off, or I feel like I'm out of control, or I don't have any control, or I've got too much control. All these feelings, you see, are violent because they cause pain. They're rubs. Rubs is a violence. You see, it can be anger or just a gentle, quiet desperation, but it's violence, you see. And so we become sensitive to that. And then when we become sensitive and notice that there is violence, the town alarm goes off and the first responder comes as awareness, and it says, what's going on here? Why is there this pain? What's going on? Let me take a look. What's the truth here? What's real here? Give me the facts, Joe Friday with Friday. Not emotional story, not your victimization, not your complaints and your crying. Just what's the facts here? What's the truth? And the truth is nonviolence. The truth is that the mind is, in its original state, is not violent. And the mind and the world are one. That's the ultimate nonviolent state. I am the world, you are the world is you. That is nonviolent, you see. You and the world, you and your external world are one. But when you feel like it's two and the world's against me and that person, which is a personification of the world for me, or the dog, or my boss, or even my body, is, oh, my body's sick and I hate it. Whatever you hate and don't like and get angry with is violence. And the end of violence is when you see through and through, see that you are the world and the world is you. And then it's not like you become passive, you become creative. Because the energy that went into maintaining this difference, this split, this Grand Canyon between you and the world, you and your own experience, when that collapses through seeing that you are the world and the world is you, all that energy that went into maintaining these two parts comes together and becomes one energy, and it's joy, and it's creativity, and it's contentment. The old iced tea commercial, you see. Peace at last. But that's not a dead peace, it's a creative peace. Because it's full of energy. It's full of energy to do whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. Clean the house or give a talk on Facebook. So thanks for dropping in and continuing this inquiry into nonviolence as expressed through vegetarianism or veganism. So, thank you.